Well, congratulations. Today, I'm going to do a little bonus thing since you guys have graduated and the ship passed. Now, I've jumped ahead with a few things, but this is the universal class starship I've been talking about, and so I'm going to fix the one thing that really bothered me, but they don't believe in no win scenarios. So, of course, they're going to have to make you lose. So I decided to go and do the true modified version of Star Trek Generations. And if Data really did put in his emotion chip, and what would have happened. Okay, so Data would have took leave to put in the chip, meaning he's not on Amagosa Observatory during Lieutenant LaForge's capture, because he would have been bothered by pushing Dr. Crusher in the water. So he would have never been on the ship when LaForge got hit. Data's neural net would have been overwhelmed, as we know, since it not to since not on assignment, the level of inception pers- the level of inseparation is much higher, causing Data to drop unknown to the crew, right? He would have been in his deck, in his room all alone, and when he would have passed out, he would have been alone and nobody would have known anything. He would be on leave, so they would have left him alone, causing him to enter the dreamscape that Dr. Soong programmed for him. As anybody who doesn't remember, well, we'll get into that. As Commander doesn't report to duty, he is found and having moved to engineering, where only himself and Lieutenant LaForge are proficient in Data's diagnostic blueprints, other than similarity to Data's previous dreamscape diagnosis results. Right? Remember when he had first met Dr. Soong? Dr. Soong told him he programmed Data with the entire village's history. So he has all of that, but he also went on a thing like Captain Picard did. Captain Picard went into a dream mode where he was gone for 2 weeks but spent 80 years in it. Right? So, other than the previous case notes on this stuff, nobody's really would know how any of it would even matter. So they kind of lost. But dispensable don't concur to any of his results. Yeah, they wouldn't know what to do. Data was allowed to pursue it because it was given to him by Dr. Soong, and the Amagosa Observatory was only a yellow alert scenario, and LaForge would return shortly. They weren't expecting a problem to happen. But by the time the Klingon bird of prey escapes, Data's dream has found equilibrium, sending him into an emotional body of memories, more to speed of a human than a computer. He arrived back in the memories of the time he was marooned on the computer probe of Dr. Soong's original program files, in the first level of matrix of his positronic net. Dr. Soong programmed Data with the full biological imprint of the whole village, their dreams, their ambitions, their work ethic, their home life, their social life. Generally, Data falls into a village as if he were a stranger instead of arriving as Soong's intended, because all the other stuff involving he didn't go in right. He was supposed to come onto these things on his own. But since he went in, instead of being he comes in as a stranger, which with his programming makes him more like a human stranger because he's having malfunctions. His neural net's shutting down because it's programming ready for this to be happening. It was built to happen, but it's coming on wrong. So he's not looking at it right. So he comes out as basically almost like a child. The malfunction in his head crippled his matrices number 2 and 3 of his positronic net, his calculator assemblies, leaving him as a Starfleet cadet with minimal operational experience. By this point, Captain Picard and O'Brien find Dr. Sauron's plan to bring the ribbon to him, because Data's not there, so he's using O'Brien, on the Enterprise stellar cartography. LaForge is traded for Picard. Data's heart saves him by reminding him who he is, allowing Dr. Soames' programming to reassess and realign. Data becomes the village, and all of the information begins downloading into him into an impersonal category library, where you're losing the people who were feeling it, just the connection and the circuits that are there, so it's no longer. So when they become hosts, put it that way, so he'll go and put himself in the feelings, everybody feels happy, so all the happy combines into that library book, all the sadness into that library book. So he's not really going into that person or that dream and becoming it. He's going to fall into the little happiness of that dream for all the people. See? Yeah, there's no village people involved. The download takes 30 minutes. LaForge gets back to med deck, cleans, and gets debriefed. Data awakens, learns of LaForge's experience with the Klingons, suggests checking LaForge's visor because he's in a whole new level of thinking now. He sees odd points. Like a human's creativity comes from their ability to see things differently. So he ends up finding this all before. Remember, he's Data. He thinks about this first. He thinks that they traded him back. They were going to use him. These are so he kind of had the idea already worked out. All right, so bear in mind. Finds the bird of prey needed to give the visor their shield input in order not to cause a connection distortion while in cloak. See, they needed to program their code, their cloak frequency into the visor. Like my combative hull, if you don't have the right, then it's not going to go through. It's going to create a disbursement. You're going to detect it. It's going to have a spark. So they had to do that. So it ended up turning bad for him. Data tells the bridge Commander Riker and search the Klingons are facing them and asks Lieutenant Commander Worf to assess a target on their plasma relay coils. Basic roundabout, because you still can't see them, but based on where they are, they can assume where their weapons are, so you can have to pretty much guess it. Fire at a decloaked ship. Success. The Klingons retreat. How didn't the Klingons know? Because LaForge trusts Data, and Data followed him around from behind doing the diagnostic, being sure to stay out of view. So they were watching him, and Data, being a computer, not a human, knew if there was a visor thing involved, he would be watching it. So why would he put himself on the screen? That's a very human point of view, Of course he's going to be behind it. Later at 10 forward, the two got a good laugh while thinking about it. When LaForge realized that Data was laughing, because he didn't know he got the chip in. So it would have been funny, how Data fucking fooled the Klingons. So Data was laughing about it. And then Geordi's like, what? The ship then scanned for Picard on the planet and sends a full security detail due to lack of understanding of Dr. Sauron's preparation. So they sent a full team down. He did get to the observatory without alerting crew. Inquiries of this matter should be solved. How did this guy get there? So that is what would have happened if Data really put the chip in. They wouldn't have crashed the Enterprise. They wouldn't have. He wouldn't have been crying because he's feeling bad. He was programmed for this stuff. He had that stuff put in him. Those previous episodes had already gone over this. So, they just had to, that's where he would have woke up. Because remember his dreamscape, seeing the bird, eating the cake. I mean, he lived this stuff. This is who he is. And eventually, just like, he eventually turned out like a dream where you're floating over everything. And it just began compiling right. He began getting his calculations back. For real, he was programmed for it. So this is why Data turns into the man he is, right? So he becomes an admiral. He becomes a... Let me pause. I got this on a file. Am I ready? Right. So when Professor Berlin comes from the future, supposedly, even though it's the past, and he finds a time travel thing, I go and cut that out. I wrote my own thing here. This guy said he came in from the 26th century, but it was like the 22nd. So I kept him at the 26th century. And the ship goes and comes into this situation where they're up against something. It's a life form, but they don't know it's a life form. And the problem is, it comes down to they were going to turn the ship into a bullet. They were going to turn it because it can't condense. It can't open. It can, it's just like a ball, the cage of balls. They're movable, even though they're designed to lock on themselves like a Chinese finger trap. It is a... So, all of these ships come in from all over the universe to witness this moment. And Data goes and stands against the crew, stands against the captain, and saves the creature's life because of some reason. I don't feel like... I actually ended up seeing the episode. It was a big sphere ball in one of the original ones, and I made a story around it. It turns out it was just some little weird guy inside of this thing. It was all season 1 of the first series. So I'm going to cut all that out. So instead of killing it, and the Klingons, or the Cardassians are there, and the Klingons, and instead of doing this, he's the one that got him to save it. Well, so Data becomes an admiral, and he also has decided to use the Borg stuff. But once again, emotions are nervous system things. You feel it in your bones. So he already has and he decides to grow his own skin. He decides to you know, because Dr. Soong was more advanced than the Borg, so if they can do it, of course he could do it, and he becomes like a human. He does it on his palms, and he does it on another region, so that he can fully live the life of a human, you know, and this is lucky for him because he can is now the type that can go and party, get drunk, and turn the switch and go back into his non-emotional mode because now that he's aligned right, he can flip it on and off. So he won't still react. He can get girlfriends and live a life so that now he became the Reginald 3. A Reginald is a universal class starship, which I will describe eventually. Well, I guess I did the Marauder Madman shipyard already. It is a system that futuristic. It uses holodeck technology and replicator technology to form the ship around you. You basically, using holodeck crew, holodeck stuff, you're able to form a full size, full speed, full power holodeck from around your location, from just having a target lock on you. It really, the secret is that there's a light year size ship off hidden somewhere, cloaked, and it is the thing that holds all the materials. But using the wormhole, warp hole, all these technologies, it makes it appear as though you have a holographic system. Mine appears on my hand. I'll put the diagram up. The bridge crew is on the palm. The rest of the ship operations is on the hand. It rotates and opens up things so I can control. It's like I have the control of the full ship right on my hand, and all the different seats, so I'm able to call up all the information as if I was on board still, and still able to fire and everything. So this is what a universal class starship truly is. Not just universal speed anymore. It's really beyond that. But this is what happened. Voyager had opened the door for the intergalactic speeds, but then using Picard's method that we just learned of beaming all of the people inside of the ship while it's condensed, it's able to go even faster, without having to worry about losing anyone or anything. So now this is what happened with he became the Reginald 3, using Picard becoming number 4. I, of course, was number 1 because I created it, and number 2 is none of y'all's business. But the coolest part was that Data had become an ambassador, not just an admiral anymore. He became an ambassador. He became one of the Starfleet headquarters members by opening up a whole new universe. Star Trek started as a 5-year mission, and a lot of people think that my quadrant base setup defies that. But with how fast these ships are, we're dealing with 300 stars and the space in between. We're explorers. We got security ships, that protect. And I'm going to get into one of the missions probably later today. I went through one, and just to see how it would pan out. And it was crazy. It's not the Kobayashi or the fighting the Romulan drill, but, you know, there's a lot that can happen in the. I mean, Star Trek Next Generation was on for 7 years, and the amount of missions they did in there are nothing compared to what it'll really be. So but Data opened up a thing where he can use the prime directive of Christ and go farther than, whether it's in the cloaked version or in the, but it puts a Data captain on every ship and spreading the Federation out farther. And everybody knows, from everybody who's a member knows what that means. So they're not confined to, oh, you're going to stop us from being Klingon. No, be Klingon. Take any planet that doesn't have life and be Klingon there. Just warn people and don't act like a fucking Klingon when you're out in public. When you're with the rest of the planets, be civilized. But then go home and be however you want. Blow up people, and if they don't leave, blow them up and put them in jail. We don't care. But, whatever. So he goes to the reaches beyond the Federation and still recruits, still, does the whole thing, being cloaked vessels, following the species. And he's able to be a master control node. So as that puts him into, so when he's in college at the last episode Next Generation, as a professor, he's really still an admiral watching his fleet of datas, because he has instituted himself into the ship. They are anatomy, life forms, they are sentient in a sense. They contact him for unknowns, and so they go, and now any crew can choose. Do you want to stay and do the new neighborhood base at a star base, or do you want to go with the Data and out into the universe? And anybody who's looking to get a Reginald class ranking, you have to be either a fleet admiral, which, as we know, it's a supervisor. These are the ones who sort stuff out. The analyst, general analyst, are problem solvers. They're the ones who solve the things nobody else can. And you still, even with those two ranks, you still have about a 1% chance of actually coming close. Because there's a lot of things you have to prove beyond. Because with a Reginald class, you are your own starship. You don't even need a crew. You can go anywhere, and the prime directive will shut you down. It will ground you, and you can't hack that, because hacking, it's the same thing. It's going against the prime directive, and you'll lose your powers. It'll leave you off in space with your deconstructible starship, just like everybody else's, because they are. The combative hulls can separate, break down, end up looking like a big pile of garbage while still having electricity, life support, and gravity. So you end up becoming a drifter colony bum, and nobody's even able to tell it's a starship. But punching the right few buttons, it all reconjoin into the ship fully operational. Whether you still have full crew by then and they haven't abandoned you for, but that's here or there. Uh, yeah, that was a long one, but for real, I had to put Data back in the professor seat. That whole thing bothered me so bad when they killed him. It is not right. It was not computer thought out, and it's all because of this one. It had nothing to do with the fact that they found another one. It was all because of this one, because those emotion chip was not put into a right computer. It was put into a human. You can't give a human an emotion. That is not safe. So I fixed it and moved him to where he should be. You know, so he was watching Picard, and he's now qualified to know who's qualified to deserve it. And yeah, right on. May the force be with you. Don't be a hater.